Hello dear viewers and welcome back to another episode of ForSense. My name is Amilcar and as you know I am a sci-fi and dark fantasy author. It's been a few days since our last episode, so this week we'll have to post two episodes of ForSense to catch up with the TV show. Today we're gonna have the review of the episode 4 and in the next four cents will be the episode 5 and this will be over the weekend. With that said, let's dive into the analysis of the episode 4 of Star Trek Starfleet Academy titled Vox in Excelso. The episode begins with the Doctor giving a talk or a speech, whatever you want to call it, to the students. In his explanation, he uses language that is quite unorthodox for a class, which makes a soy boy feel disturbed with the words that the Doctor is using. Now, the problem here is not what the Doctor says or how he says it. It's the fact that once again, in an officer's academy, we have on one side students who get scared hearing a bad word, and on the other hand, the professors who are not only not pedagogues, but whose argument, as we see here in I am right because I say so, or in this case, because I am older than you, I am right. And you shut up. Zero argument, zero spirit to educate or form the officers of tomorrow. If you ask me, with this type of or this kind of behavior, the only result you will get for the future is a batch of tyrants and autocrats. Not ambassadors, not people who want to have a good relationship with other races or with someone who think different to them. No. Tyrants. After that, the Doctor starts explaining how the debate brought back the Betazoids to the Federation. And first of all, that's a fallacy because the Betazoids returned to the Federation only because the writers team created an absurd situation without reason to be, in which against all logic the representative of the Betazoid race, a race of empaths, conceded to a group of teenagers who stood up. Because every time Nayla was arguing with him, she was losing the debate, because the writers team, they don't know how to debate. So because they don't know how to debate, they don't know how to write a debate. The students then go to the debate podium and, as always, Sam acts like a toddler. Because why make a charismatic and interesting character when you can just make a self-insert? Anyway, on his part, the Klingon, upon mention the word debate, begins to sweat and have a panic attack. Then he went up to the podium and discompensated. And seriously, how can something, not someone, because he's at this point he's not someone, he's something. How can something like that be being among the best of the best if a situation of this type causes him stress and he collapses? How is he supposed to carry out a negotiation that could define the fate of the Federation? It's a bloody elite academy. It's not a kindergarten. And all this without taking in consideration that sweating is a method of the human body to control internal temperature or in cases like this to flee because it increases cardiac flow, raises metabolism, and that increases internal temperature. That's why people sweat in stress situations or stressing situations, sorry. That is to say, for a human metabolic reaction, not an alien reaction, human. So in this bloody TV show, are you gonna tell me that every alien creature has the same metabolism, the same chemical reactions than a human? After that, Jaden and Caleb sit down to talk about Jaden's embarrassing participation in the debate. And Caleb offers him pizza. Why? Why have food from every corner of the universe when you can just eat pizza? And by the way, the Klingon refused to eat anything that didn't die in fair combat, that is hunting. Okay, I get it. But all the damn food in that place came from a replicator machine. So, how the hell is that logic supposed to apply to this situation? Following this, Nayla calls Jaden to her office to explain him that there was an accident with a cargo ship and that his family might be dead. And this is where we learn about the situation of the Klingon race. And this makes me go back to Nayla's first speech in episode 1. When she was in her entrance speech to the Academy, she mentions that some of those present were the last of their species. And I thought at that moment that she was referring to the fact that, I don't know, maybe some races weren't happy with the Federation and maybe that was the last generation attending to give it one last chance? But no, it was referring to races that are on the brink of extinction, like the Klingons in this case. And instead of securing the future of their families, they are playing at being students? What kind of logic fits in that? Shouldn't the Klingon be looking for Klingon partners to have as many children as possible and contribute that way to the perpetuation of his people? And in the next scene, we can see a flashback that show us the Klingons' life as refugees. They are living in huts, cooking over campfires, like Native Americans or pre-Columbian indigenous people. By the way, the producers, they don't know how to make a campfire because they have 2 campfires to cook, but anyway. The Klingons are talking about the pride of the hand, and I can let pass this detail because it's embarrassing. That the bowstring isn't tensed. I mean, the producers of this show are so retarded that they didn't even bother to hire a proper person who knew how to do his job. And this is what happens when you prioritize inclusion and quotes over merit and or experience. You have incompetence in charge, like those who were creating this bloody bow. Anyway, continuing with the story, Jay then mentioned that he had two fathers and one mother, which is understandable to a certain point in conditions like theirs. I don't know if historically that race would be polyamorous, but I understand that facing extinction, they will want to ensure the greatest genetic variety within the same race. Now, according to that logic, two fathers, it's not enough. There should be like, I don't know, 5, 10, 20, because we are talking a race in the brink of extinction. That say, there is something I don't understand. Jaden said that he was raised with two fathers, but in his memories he has two brothers, and the only partner of his mother shown in the scene treats him like a stepfather. So my question at this point is, how does this work? After this, the story returns to the academy, and the doctor explains that there will be a round of debates. The situation of the Klingons is proposed as topic for the debate, but the doctor gets upset, alluding the following: I cannot allow the reality of the current situation to influence this event. Wait, isn't that the whole point or purpose of a debate? To expose the point of view of each of the parties and based on that try to convince the other side, or failing that, reach a middle ground? But what kind of debate is this in which the professor don't want to talk about a topic that it's important not only for the federation but for some of the students? From there we move to Nayla's office, where for the first time she's seated like a captain, a real captain, a point for her. And she's talking with Charles, and in response to a sentence he says, she replies, I know that look. Whatever this is, I'm gonna hate it. Immediately after, Charles explained to her about an empty planet, an inhabited planet, where the Klingons could go live, and she loves the proposal. And it's funny for me because she tried to act like someone who knows everything, but at the end of the day she knows nothing. And I insist, I hate the character because it's the purest representation of absolute ignorance when someone creates a character. And I insist, I have nothing against the actress. My criticisms are always aimed at the characters and those who created them, not the actors. Okay? From there we go back to Caleb and Genesis, who are wearing space backpacks because it's the space and it's 32nd century, and the same as the airpods, there are space backpacks, for God's sake. Anyway, Genesis explained to Jaden that they want to form a team with Caleb because he's the best at debating, because of course he's Agaris too, as seen before. And Jaden rejects the idea because according to him is clarity. And I was wondering, what? How the hell can everyone be so bloody sensitive in this TV show. No one can be told or mention anything without someone taking it personally. In this TV show, in the universe of this TV show, everybody must be walking over eggshells. Because, if I say something, someone could feel, I don't know, harmed? God, they are so. And I swear, this TV show is worse than a corrupt politician's debate. Because the Klingon said he wasn't good at public debates, as we saw. And now he complains because Caleb wants to help him with one. And another detail, Jaden doesn't want the Federation to help the Klingons, but on the other hand, he's receiving help, shelter, food, and education from them, from the Federation, and without paying anything. So, what logic is there in that? And again, I'm wondering how fucking retarded you can be to write some bloody piece of trash like this. And after that, Jaden remembers the moment when his brother was stabbed, which is weird because from what we saw in the previous scenes, they live in some kind of forest. I imagine this is the producers, the director, equivalent to an Native American reservation. Therefore, the market must have been several kilometers away from that place, from the settlement where they are living, or they were living, sorry. And in that case, how did his wounded brother get to the camp walking? Anyway, logic. It doesn't matter. Jaden says that the artifact his brother went to get could save his life. But one of his fathers refused to use it because it's Federation aid. But if in the first place the brother went to look for that, why now it's Federation's aid? And on the other hand, they are in the brink of extinction, and you prefer to have a dead son because you don't want to. Anyway, brain dead. As I said before, one of Jaden's dads, fathers, whatever, says that they don't want to receive help from the Federation. And I was wondering, how are you dressed in clothes that clearly weren't created through hunting or gathering? Plus, their clothes are not even in bad condition. Taking into account the wear and the tear they should have from the hunter lifestyle they lead, their clothes must be from, I don't know, a year or less at the most. But no, they don't receive help from the Federation despite being in refuge camps. And it's a refuge camp. This camp must be in someone else's planet to be a refuge camp. And there is another thing. Why do they live in huts? Why don't they live inside the ship? In movies like Halo Legends, specifically the segment called Odd One Out, or animes like Heroic Age, there are similar situations, and in both cases, the protagonist lived inside the ship because it's the most safety and obvious thing to do. After this inconsistent memory, we can see Nayla meeting with Obel Wojcik, I can remember the pronunciation, a Klingon who can be considered the representative of his race. She explains her idea of giving them a planet that nobody wants, nobody uses, that the Federation doesn't want, and that it's uninhabited, and he refused to accept it because it's charity. What I mean is, charity is giving something to someone in need. But here, it's simply like a look, there is a planet that's free. Because apparently, nobody inhabits it. It's like a friend who is looking for a house, and you tell him in such and such place they are selling one. That's not charity. And that's the thing. They are using words without meaning in this situation. Naila insists that it's not charity, but helps because they are on the brink of extinction. Even though she admits she wants to save them because it's always about her. Really, she's the worst person, or in this case, character I've seen debating and negotiating. Everything is always about her and her and her, and not about the other party, what the other party wants, or how to get something from you, giving you something that you want. It's always about her. So, the Klingon replies, "No more of your word games." When she herself said that she wants to save them out of her arrogance. There is no words game. And I was listening this, and I was watching the whole scene, and I was thinking, a bunch of monkeys with typewriters could do a better job writing a script. And as expected, the negotiation fails. Obvious. That was the only logical part in this whole BS. From there we go to a room where Caleb and Jaden are arguing about the idea of forming a team, because clearly Caleb sees Jaden as a friend, and since the latter almost fainted just from standing in public, it's logic that Caleb wants to help him. But Jaden has his head so far up his ass that he's not capable of seeing things as they are, but instead has an identity crisis between his action and his values. And the strangest thing is that he always talks about honor and combat and being a warrior, but his actions are diametrically opposed to that. It's as if the producers want to reinvent the concept of warrior, which remind me of a situation with some social warriors or keyboard warriors who say they should receive better and discounts benefits because they two were fighting a war. Once more, we go back to Jaden's memories, and I insist the inconsistency regarding receiving help from the Federation versus their clothes is commendable, but whatever. Jaden and one of his parents, they are having this discussion, this arguing, because Jaden's father is upset because Jaden refused to hand. After that flashback, they enter to Jaden's room and they have an interaction that screams out loud that they are going to be a couple in some chapters later on. If you ask me, a really unnecessary scene that only serves to ship to the LGBTQ seats and plus I don't know whatever community, because the Klingon not only has to dishonor his family by wanting to be something that Klingons are not, and I mean about being a doctor or something like that, but he also has to be homosexual, because Star Trek, it's the same as gay Trek now. And I wonder, is there any merit or any contribution to this TV show or to the plot, both of them being in a relationship? And the quick answer is no. There is no contribution. There is absolutely nothing. But as I say, it's just to shipping the LGTB, AYZ, whatever it is, community. That's all. It's just virtual signaling. Regarding the debate that continues the story, I try to understand both sides about the implication of the relationship, and I realize that that word has absolutely nothing to do in context with the situation, because relocation means the action and effect of relocating or placing again a person, thing, group, company or resources in a different place than the one it's occupied before. And that's the issue, that it doesn't apply to the situation because they are not being moved from one place to another, because, as I mentioned it before, they are being told there is an inhabited planet over there where no one is living. They are not being offered food, nor having the planet with buildings and spaceports or anything, at least from what has been seen and talked about. The Klingons are living in temporary refugee camps or borrowed planets. Now, the discussion between Caleb and Jaden makes no sense, nor has any reason to be, because the Klingons' race is already in a charity situation in many cases. So, they refuse to get out of their charity situation because they don't want charity. It makes absolutely no sense. I mean, not for someone with a minimum of brain, of course, but for someone without brain, it's perfectly logical. After that display of incoherence, both of them are disqualified. Lura Tok goes to talk to Jaden, and he shows her a clear identity problem because, as everyone knows, adolescents last until 35 years old. So Jaden still has time to be confused and lost. Especially when the only thing he should be doing in his race situation is having children, even if it's for honor and duty to his family. But anyway, logic. And this is the thing. Logic doesn't apply to the story with its own context, since there are approximately 10 houses left, and Jaden's house has only 4 members because his brother is dead now. And the other problem is his mother is really old. So I assume that the total number of his race must be around hundreds approximately. And yet, that's the thing. He should be doing something, but he's doing nothing. He's a fucking selfish bastard. Because he cares more about him playing to being a doctor than about his family dying and his race being extinct. Jaden explains how his family abandoned him because while he was going down for the artifact that his father had broken, his whole family, both parents and his mother, magically teleported to the ship and left. And everything happens in a matter of minutes. And after this account, Lara explains him how one of his parents, the one who was with him, recognized him as a warrior, because, as we know now, that word has multiple meanings. And this is the most stupid part. They show some scenes that never happens because the continuity of the original account has no relation to the memories shown now. But hey, who cares about the details? Just eat the damn show and shut up. After that conversation with Lara, Jay then returned to the debate podium. I want to think that in the meantime there were many debates, all long, and that's why everyone was still waiting there to hear him, who, by the way, had the speech. Not a debate, because for the producers, standing alone to say what they think without someone correcting, challenging, or replying, it's a debate. And since there was no one else, he automatically wins the debate, because that's how this works. In the next scene, they do a whole pantomime and go to war with the Klingons, doing a road count of the warps. The Federation is outnumbered about 10-1. And after a massive attack by the Klingons, are you gonna tell me that they only lost 5% of their shields? And what the hell with the aiming of the beams? It wasn't even that some Federation ship movement or dodge and the beam missed. It's that from the minute 0 that 2 beams fired at places where there was no ship at all. As I said, a whole pantomime. As a conclusion, The Klingons claim that planet as a spoil of war. Why? Since in no case did they fight for the planet, nor destroy any Federation ship, nor were there deaths of or anything. So all that thing about honor, staff, and whatever was just on paper? Basically, it was an excuse to act like kids throwing tantrums. And that's all. Kids throwing tantrums. If there were no casualties, no enemy destruction, no nothing, how can this be considered a battle? I mean, was it just making a pantomime of battle for appearances? Where the pride and tradition go if everything was resolved by playing war games? Seriously, nothing in the debate of or the plot of this damn episode makes sense. And finally, if they then didn't fight, didn't do a damn thing other than be confused, why do they recognize him as a warrior? Again, this is a price for effort. It's that everyone deserves a prize because everyone is a winner. And by the way, for being space, the future, and a race of space warriors, they are giving him a bow. A bow. Even in Predator, they were more logical with their trophies and stuff, but yeah, whatever. And well, my friends, that's it for today's episode. I hope you like it. If so, don't forget to give it a like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I read your comments about this wonderful series, and we'll see each other soon with episode 5 of Retard Trek. Thanks for your time and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.